Philadelphia. Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Philadelphia. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Hall of Famer Ben Stark, and we're underway. Number 2 ranked player in the world, Reid coming in as the 4th seed against Pierre Mondon, also a Grand Prix champion. He was the 8th seed coming in, so he's going to be on the draw here against Reid because he has a higher seed from the Swiss tournament, from the Swiss portion of the tournament. And Reid has a nice start here, especially against an arena athlete with the Sylvan carry added. What are we going to see from Reid here? You got a chance to watch this whole draft.
I think we're going to see a courser of crew fix that he just drew, which is this is about the best possible start imaginable. This is constructed. I mean, at least standard. People do this all the time.
That's right.
We saw Reid's whole deck. He's got Disciple of Phoenixes full of Gray Merchants.
Okay.
He's got 2 Nessian Asps.
Wow, I like his 5-drops.
Yeah, he's got Lash of the Whip. He's got 2 Sip of Hemlocks. He might be splashing Ashiok and Griptide.
Okay.
So we just named a lot of 5/6s that were really good.
Those are insane. Right.
That's why I asked if Pierre's deck was fast. Because what Reid doesn't have, I don't think, is a lot of 2 and 3 drops. But he does have Solvin Carotid, which is probably the best card in his deck. Maybe not an independent power, but if I were Reid and somebody said, hey, you can start with 1 card in your hand and then draw 6 at random, Solvin Carotid.
Not close.
Yeah, that's what he actually needs to draw. And here...
Yeah, the value train starts to roll.
Yeah.
As we see Reid flip very nicely here as he turns up a forest, gets to play it, gain a life. That's essentially drawing him a card. It also reveals Sip of Hemlock. He's going to lose a little bit of value on that Lash of the Whip now that Pierre knows he has it, but against blue-red, it probably won't matter, and Reid can just wait and fire it off whenever he sees fit, which could be this turn.
Yeah, I mean, it probably is going to be this turn because he's drawing Sip, so he's probably not going to want to save it.
Right.
He's just passing. This way he can end of turn kill whatever the best option is.
It also means that Pierre just has no attacks because Reid can just be like block.
Yeah.
You know, if you have a trick or anything like that, I'll just kill your guy.
Right. And I mean, knowing Reid's deck, Reid's in a very good position here.
Okay.
This is like Reid's dream game. Turn 2 Sylvan Carotid, turn 3 Courser off the Carotid. I mean, even though he didn't hit land, but whatever. Turn 2 Sylvan Carotid, turn 3 Courser. This is what he's hoping for every single game.
Rare into rare is nice, and especially with Pierre doing not a lot on his side of the table here. Spear Point Oread is his addition to the board. It's just not much, and Reid, like you mentioned, is going to use this turn to take down his scariest potential threat.
Yeah.
Which is the 2-headed Cerberus.
There's another 3-drop. I don't think he has very many, and that one's not very good at blocking, but it is something you can make on the 3rd turn.
Okay.
And it is black, and he does have 2 Gray Merchants and 3 Disciple of Phoenixes. It might even have been 4 Disciple of Phoenixes.
Wow.
I'm not really sure. He has a lot of them.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, this is a very comfortable position for Reid, exactly what he's hoping would happen in the games.
Okay. Now, I did get a chance to see some of Reid's deck build. I walked by. It wasn't finished. You know, he hasn't hit submit yet, but I did see a build laid out that was splashing blue.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the one he went with for his final decision, but he was certainly exploring that option when I walked by.
Yeah,
that'll be interesting.
He has Annihilia's Presence and the Solvin Carotid,
so
it's a pretty free splash.
Okay.
So I would be pretty surprised if he didn't splash Ashiok and Griptide at least.
How good is Ashiok in Limited?
It's good. Like, I think it's first pickable, but I don't think it's standard Mythic Rare broken in Limited. Because it doesn't affect the board. It takes a couple of turns. It can be ignored if you're behind. But if you're ahead, it's going to win the game. And if you hit good creatures off it that don't cost that much and you're in a close game, it can win the game. Okay. So, you know, I think it's a strong limited card, but not a broken limited card. Okay. If I were Reid, I would actually have taken time to feed over it.
All right.
Yeah, the pick he saw it, it was it or time to feed. And I personally don't see a need to splash Ashiok into my green-black deck, even though he already had Retraction Helix, and he, you know, was already, and he already had Keratin, I'm pretty sure, so splashing was not that difficult for him. I would have still taken time defeat.
Okay.
If you gave me the Ashiok afterwards, I don't know if I would probably splash it sometimes.
Okay.
I probably wouldn't splash it in Reid's deck because he doesn't need power, but then I would splash it in Reid's deck because it's almost a free splash because he happens to have Sylvan Keratin and Nylea's presence.
All right. Meanwhile, back on the table here, Reid has played 2 creatures this turn. He started with Blood Toll Harpy, and he also now has played Disciple of Phoenix, which is going to give him 1, 2, 3, which is all of the rest of Pierre Mondon's hand. We can't quite see anything outside of the Dragon Mantle, but there's also a Magma Jet and another Dragon Mantle.
So, I mean,
Reid's thinking things over. I mean, those Dragon Mantles actually could matter here. We know that Reid's got a Sip of Hemlock in his hand, so he can take care of that Stone Shock Giant if Pierre ever starts to threaten with it, or if it ever starts to get up to, you know, monstrous level where he could take a massive hit of damage.
Yeah, and I mean, Magma Jet does kill Blood Toll Harpy, which is Reid's only pressure. So I think Magma Jet's the right play.
Now, Reid is very much a control deck here, right? I mean, he is absolutely looking to get to the late part of the game and start dominating with his 5-drops. I can't remember if you mentioned it, but I thought I saw that he had a Keepsake Gorgon. Is that true? Okay.
He has that too, yeah. Yeah, Reid is definitely the control deck. He's going to be the control deck against no matter what he plays.
Okay.
To go over the top of Reid's deck, you need to be doing Supreme Verdict into Sphinx's Revelation.
Okay.
But at this point in this game, I see no reason to take a Dragon Mantle that's effectively basically just cycling over the Magma Jet, which, I mean, when it scries and puts a land at the bottom that Pierre doesn't need, it's practically drawing a card. And it's taking out Reid's only pressure that even though he doesn't need that pressure, it's still offering something.
Sure.
You know, it has some value.
Right. All right, so Spearpoint Oread's going to pick up Dragon Mantle here and keep things moving forward for Pierre. First Strike and Fire Breathing is a pretty nice combo if you have a lot of mountains around. It can make combat difficult for Reid.
Sure.
But still, nothing's really threatening Reid at this point, right? I mean, he's at 23 with a lot of toughness on the battlefield here.
Yeah, I mean, this one turn, Pierre has a decent attack. But I have a feeling after Reid on tap, blocks and then on taps and sips, he's still going to have plenty of life.
Now, that card revealed on the top of the library for Reid is Nyxborn Eidolon.
Yeah. And
so that's going to happen at some point down the line as well.
And Reid just took it, I think, because he has so much life. There wasn't really any great blocks. I mean, he could have chump blocked, you know, a 5-power guy with a 1/3. But, you know, he's gaining life off the Courser.
Yes.
And he's just got plenty of life to spare right now, so there's no reason to chump.
And here's the bad news Courser revealing Gray Merchant.
And these are draw steps where he would have drawn these land that are coming to play off the Courser. Instead, they're just coming right into play.
He's getting so far ahead off that thing.
That's a fantastic card. He first picked it.
He did?
Yeah. And, you know, everybody agreed with that, of course. It's just, you know, oh, look, Courser of Crufix, a great rare that only costs 3 mana and nets you card advantage in life and is very hard to kill.
That's
fantastic.
Right. All right, so here's that Sip of Hemlock that you mentioned a minute ago, Ben. It's going to take down Stone Shock Giant before that thing gets out of control. And Reid's just got to kind of craft his plan here. That Gray Merchant right now is going to give him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so a 10-point life swing when he decides to play that. He's got a couple of cards left in his hand. Yeah,
and he knows that Pierre has the Dragon Mantle, so it's not like he can just leave back Disciple of Phoenix to block Arena Athlete, because the Dragon Mantle can just find its way onto the Athlete, making the Disciple unable to block, and then he would effectively have no real good blocks for the turn.
Okay, but Reid's going to attack with all 3 of his attackable creatures here. Just enter the red zone, and you know, the interesting thing about that Sylvan Caryatid is that he can just chump block with it, especially if he's not actually splashing. You know, it doesn't have that much value here late in the game. If he is splashing, then it's a little different story.
Right, and we don't actually technically know whether he's splashing.
No,
or not, right?
I actually don't know.
Yeah, I don't either. But I mean, I don't think he wants to get too low. But the Gray, he's probably not that scared because the Gray Merchant's about to drain for 5. So I mean, he's at 15. Even if the Dragon Mantle comes down, let's say he doesn't block either creature, it's still, what, 6, 7 damage? And then once he gains the 5 back, he's right back to 13.
That's right. And, of course, he's got this bolstered board state here that he can use to get himself out of any mess.
So, I mean, his life, it might dip a little low, but it's not really in jeopardy.
That's right. And, you know, the main reason for that being, of course, that the Dragon Mantle costs mana from Pierre Mondon. So, like, if he wants to dip his life down low, he's going to have to use up most of his mana for the turn, meaning that he can't have any other big haymaker to follow that up. And here's a Bolt of Keranos that's going to hit Blood Toll Harpy, it looks like.
Which makes sense. You're taking away a point of drain, and you're taking away Reid's pressure. And even though you don't want to go to the late game because you're staring down Courser, you have no choice.
Right. That's just a bad position to be in for Pierre here. And Pierre's going to scry that to the top, so that must be something quite nice for him.
And, I mean, Reid does have to find stuff. That spear point with the Dragon Mantle, as you said, first strike and fire breathing, I mean, it kind of has to be dealt with.
So Nylea's presence is now on top of the library here as Reid draws his Gray Merchant. This is nice for us commentators, by the way. We get to just see his draws very clearly every turn.
Right.
And here's Gray Merchant now for 4 instead of 5 since the Blood Toll Harpy hit the bin.
I'm not sure I can see Reid's hand clearly.
Yeah, his hand itself I can't see.
Kind of looks like a fade into Antiquity, but it can't be, because if it is, he would certainly kill that spear point.
No, I actually think it is. Yeah,
okay,
it is.
Yeah.
Now he's going to kill it.
He's just doing it after the Gray Merchant in case Pierre has a combat trick. He wants to get the extra drain out of the Disciple of Phoenix.
That's right.
Now he'll attack afterwards, which all makes perfect sense,
right.
Of course.
And here comes Reid Duke attacking for 3. This could bring Pierre down to 5, and it does, in fact, do that.
Yeah, and
Reid's tapped out, but he's got a 2/4, and he's sitting on 19 life facing 1 creature. There's just not much that Pierre can realistically do here.
No, I don't know what Pierre's power cards are.
I don't either.
I know there was a Storm Breath that went around at this table.
He doesn't have it. I know who does.
Okay. I don't know, but other than like a Shipbreaker Kraken or something like that,
yeah,
I don't think that Pierre's getting back into this game with, little things.
Well, Wild Celebrants in the main is not the bomb that he was looking for here.
No, but it is bigger than all of Reid's creatures.
It is. It will certainly slow down the bleeding a little bit. He's at a pretty low life total at 5.
Right.
Reid's going to be drawing quite a few cards here. He's going to get to Nylea's presence. If he hits a land, he can clear that away. And the real issue here is that we know that Reid Duke's deck is power-packed in the late part of the game. And once you start finding those cards, it's going to get ugly.
Yeah, Reid's deck is built for this.
Right.
I'm not sure what Reid's thinking about, though. I guess he has a Nylea's presence. Is it better to cast it here? There's not really any benefit to holding it, right? Because you're going to draw that land next draw step, or you're going to draw that land now.
That's right.
I guess if there's 2 lands in a row, if you draw that land, you can then put the other land in play. So I'm not sure. It might actually be better to wait a turn.
Well, he's already played a land off at this turn.
That's what I'm saying. So if he plays the presence and he draws that land, he still, if the next card's landed, he has to draw it first next turn.
Right.
If he doesn't play presence this turn, he untaps and draws a land, which is already guaranteed. If the next card's land, he can put it in a play.
Okay.
So maybe it makes more sense to play presence when there's a spell on top.
Right.
Because you guarantee the spell draw then.
It could be.
It's pretty complicated.
It is. So in the meantime, Reid's going to suit up his Disciple of Phoenix, bringing it up to the requisite 3 power to be able to get through that Wild Celebrant, and he's going to attack with it.
Yeah. And Pierre, I mean, if he trades away the Celebrants, then nothing is stopping Reid's team.
Yeah, and Reid, of course, gets the 2/1 left over from the Nyxborn Iron.
But if he doesn't trade, then he's going to 2, and, well, he has to trade next turn or he's out of life.
Right.
I mean, this is like about the worst position you could be in.
Yes.
Because your opponent's life total is high, yours is low.
Yeah.
But you're also falling further behind on board due to the Courser of Crewfix. Reid's kind of got this one covered from all angles.
He really does. All right, so Pierre gets a draw step here. But it's going to have to be something absolutely spectacular to get him out of this mess. He's got 2 cards, maybe 3 cards in hand. Here's the first Dragon Mantle. That's been his hand for a while. And your Courser can't block. Though there should not be any attacks incoming here. And Pierre's going to play a land, leaving him just with 2 cards in hand. And Reid has a lot of info to work with here. Reid's going to draw, reveal that land, and he gets to play it. Yeah. So this is part of the scenario that we were thinking about before.
Yeah, I think now you Nylea's presence if you want to clear the spell.
Yeah.
But I think all of this is academic. I don't know if Reid's going to try turning his 3 guys to end the game this turn or not. He probably won't. It's unnecessarily risky. Just attack with the Disciple of Phoenix, and then he has to trade with the Celebrants. And then you're still looking at 3 lethal guys. That Servant can come into play because he can play the Presence and the Servant. I mean, I don't think Pierre can do anything. Like, honestly, I know it's a GP top 8, but if I was Pierre, I might just concede at this point. Like,
okay.
I mean, I don't know Pierre's deck. I don't know. I just don't know what.
I mean, is there a card in the set that you can think of here? Like,
not really.
I mean, there's a few things that can like delay the inevitable a little bit for him,
I mean,
but not much.
Maybe Shipbreaker Kraken, is that what it's called? The 6 mana 6/6.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if he has that in his library, I guess he can maybe draw that and play it this turn. He's still dead on board though, and that would almost certainly provoke an attempt at a lethal alpha by Reid.
That's right.
But I mean.
And that's going to do it. The big scoop motion there for Pierre Christophe Mondon, and Reid Duke convincingly takes the first game. Took him a little while as he is a control deck to get there, but that's how it works. Let's take a look at our upcoming webcast schedule. We've got a lot lined up for you in the coming months. Grand Prix Minneapolis is going to be, it's modern. Sweet. I thought it was standard for some reason, but modern. I love that. May 10th and 11th, same exact weekend. Grand Prix Warsaw. Rich Hagen and our guys on the European coverage team are going to be bringing you that. Theros and Born of the Gods Seal Draft. It's a limited event. Pro Tour Journey into Nyx, which is Theros block constructed. Are you excited for that, Ben? Is block a thing that you're into?
I mean, I like block just fine, but I'm always excited for the Pro Tour. There's only 4 of them a year, and I mean, I can't even describe the Pro Tour in words. It's magical. It just feels so different than any other tournament. Yeah, it does. They're fantastic, and of course, / Booster Draft, which I know you're excited for that, May 16th through 18th. Grand Prix Atlanta. Now, Pro Tour Journey into Nyx is in Atlanta. Following weekend is Grand Prix Atlanta. So if you're making the trip out, you can just sort of hang out, and that's going to be a limited event as well. May 24th and 25th. I'm going to be there bringing you guys that one. That one should be fun. Are you going to make it up to GP Atlanta? It's not too far from Florida. Yeah,
I'll almost certainly be there. There's really cheap direct flights. If I wanted to drive, it's about a 10-hour drive from where I live.
Great. Grand Prix Manchester is Theros block constructed May 31st through June 1st, and we have Grand Prix Moscow standard June 14th and 15th, right in the middle of summer, or right at the beginning of summer there, and Grand Prix Chicago. I wonder if that's actually in Chicago. Rosemont, all right. Standard, which is June 21st and 22nd. All right. All right, so Rashad says it's surrounded by Chicago. I'll take that. That counts for me. So we certainly hope you guys will join us for the upcoming webcast.
I went to a Grand Prix Chicago a few years back. I think it was in something called Schaumburg.
And that one wasn't quite as Chicago as the one that's coming up. All right.
It was about an hour from Chicago.
Well, Chicago's a great city.
Yeah, no disrespect to the people of Schaumburg, but I kind of felt like I got rope-a-doped a little bit there. I was thinking I was going to Chicago. It was still a fun tournament. It was Legacy. It was the first time I'd ever played Legacy.
What did you play?
Ad nauseum.
Wow, just dove in head first.
Yeah, and it wasn't a good choice. I really had no idea what I was doing.
That's a hard deck to play from everything I've heard. I've never done it myself.
Yeah, I very rarely get draws on time in tournaments, and I had several of them in that tournament, 2 or 3, because I was just perplexed at all times with my options. I just really, I couldn't even put into words. I had no idea whether to play my land on turn 1 or pass the turn with it in my hand.
So from the very first turn of the game. All right, we got Reid Duke's deck list here in front of us too, so we can take a look. Oh, we got an update down on the down on the floor. It looks like Frank Scarron has defeated William Huey Jensen to move on to the semis.
I'm not surprised. We got to watch Huey's draft.
Yeah, I was the one filming it.
Yeah, it was brutal.
It was bad.
Yeah.
That's actually something that you and I have been talking about, and specifically me, is entering the white fight. You enter that. He first picked some mediocre white cards.
Well, the white cards were the best cards in the pack for him. Like I would have took the Aruska Sun Guides and everything, just like Huey did. What I would have done differently was he saw 2 Nyxborn Eidolons towards the end of the pack, and he took like Hold at Bay and like something else basically unplayable over them. And I would have took them because they weren't good white cards or even okay white cards really. And then I would have moved into black because after that he saw Ashiok pick 2 pack 2, and there weren't. It's not even like he saw Ashiok and Wingsteed Rider.
Right.
It was Ashiok and no white cards of any kind.
Right.
So he first picked the Nimbus Naiad pack 2. I think pack 2 pick 2. Had he taken those Nyxborn Eidolons like he should have, he would have, or like I would have, I should say, he would have had the opportunity to then take the Ashiok and then the whole train of black cards that were going around, and then put
that ended up in Reid Duke's deck.
Right, and since Reid started getting them pack 2, Reid wouldn't have gotten them. He almost certainly wouldn't have ended up black, and Huey would just have them all, and then Huey would have a really good deck.
Yep. So tough beats there for Huey. He put together a middling blue-white list to get here. He 3-0'd his last draft to make it to the top 8, but this one unfortunately wasn't able to get by Frank Scarron.
And I mean, blue-white is probably the best archetype in the format, but not by so much that you can win if all of your cards are bad.
You know, BDM, we were just talking about Frank. It looks like Frank Scarron has beaten Huey.
Yeah, Frank Scarron beat Huey 2 games. Frank's deck looked really good. Huey's deck was scuffling a little bit, and he didn't get great mana in the second game, and he fell. I just watched an insane game, though, between Marco Valdi and Chris Calcano. By the way, the back table, which we've now moved Calcano and Evaldi up to the front table, is 4 white players.
Yeah.
We have white-green aggro versus blue-white aggro. Evaldi's red-white aggro. Calcano, on the other hand, is blue-white control with Fated Retribution, Mnemonic Wall, build your own Sarah Angel or Baneslayer Angel with Horizon Scholar and
interesting
Hopeful Eidolon, Griffin Dreamfinders to get things back, but Stormbreath Dragon was a little too much for him, and he wasn't able to fully mount the comeback against Evaldi, who's up a game on him. It was an unbelievable haymaker game. Chained to the rocks on a 100-handed one.
Wow.
So they have Wraths and Stormbreath Dragon, and Reid has Sylvan Keratin into Courser of Crufix. Am I watching Standard? Because I thought I was doing a limited GP here.
Yeah.
But if they're playing Standard in this top 8, that's cool too.
Yeah, they were chaining things to rocks too.
Yep.
All right, you guys are underway. I'll be back with more updates.
All right, thanks BDM. We are back down in our feature match area with a pair of 2-2s. We got a Grey Ogre fight here. We've got a Spearpoint Oread versus a Mogus's Marauder.
Yeah, and these are just not the fast starts that somebody's going to need if they're going to be able to punish Reid.
Right. A 3-drop is your first play, and it only has 2 power. This is a nice follow-up, though. Fanatic of Mogus is going to add a significant amount of power to the board and also bring Reid Duke another couple of life points down. So not bad,
yeah,
but
I haven't seen Reid yet, but I suspect he's going to be able to go into Disciple of Phoenix, Grey Merchant mode soon. And, you really need a little bit more pressure.
Yeah, your suspects were founded here. There's a Disciple of Phoenix for 3. I think Pierre only has 4 cards in his hand. So pick the one you don't want me to have access to here.
Oh.
And he does that. He reveals Omen Speaker. What is that bottom card? Obviously a mountain in the middle there.
I can't make it out, but if he's got a Magma Jet, I probably wouldn't show him that. If you take out the Mogus Marauder, at least the Fanatic's attacking.
It's a Titan of Eternal Fire.
Yeah.
All right.
So the last card's got to be pretty good. I mean, Omen Speaker and Mountain were probably pretty easy shows, but if you're showing your 5/6 and you've got 4 lands,
that's right.
You're not
with land, yeah.
Right.
And I think this is Wild Celebrants now. All right, so turn 5 Wild Celebrants here for Pierre. Still has 1 card left in his hand. And there's an Essien Asp. So Reid Duke doing exactly what he wants, getting to that 4 and 5 drop slot where he's got all of his power and getting so in a comfortable life total, sitting at 16 here.
Yeah, this is pretty much exactly how Reid wants the game to go. I mean, this game, he started way more fair, not like last game. He only started on a 3-mana 2/2 on turn 3. But his opponent, Pierre, just didn't have a draw to punish him, really.
Right.
Pierre on the play here needed to make a 2-drop into an aggressive 3-drop, not a 3-mana 2/2 into a 4-mana 4/2.
Right. Now, Pierre's attacking here. He's got all of his mana up, and Reid's in the tank. He's tapped out currently.
Yeah.
Just got to take this?
Well,
I think he just did take this.
He can't block with the Asp because that's what's stopping everything else, basically. He could double block because those creatures aren't of that much value to him, but I don't think he wants to risk getting blown out by a simple trick.
Yeah, just some, Lightning Strike or something, or a pump spell.
Also, he might have more Black Devotion cards. If he has a Grey Merchant in hand, you're certainly not going to throw all your black permanents in the bin.
Right.
I think knowing most of Pierre's hand, you could make the double block there because you're not really that scared of him having top ticket trick. But I'm guessing Reid's not doing it because he has double Grey Merchant in his deck.
Sure.
And maybe in his hand.
Yeah. Also, it looks like Reid has Sip of Hemlock, which he was planning on untapping and just taking care of that thing anyway. So the question was really just, am I okay to go down to 11 life? And it looks like he was fine.
Yeah, and Reid doesn't want to let this board collapse because then the little creatures find their way through.
Yeah, they do.
When everything stays up like this, you never know what you're blanking that maybe your opponent hasn't shown you yet.
Exactly. Yeah, I think we've all had that situation in Limited where you make some trades like that, feel like you're okay, and your opponent, goes 6th land and plays like 2 Minotaur Skull Cleavers that, he's just been sitting on, and all of a sudden you're taking 8 extra damage that you weren't anticipating.
Yeah. No, Reid's doing a good job. I mean, his life's not too low. I mean, it hasn't been very difficult for him. But he's not going to let his life get too low, but he's going to try and keep those permanents in play and keep this board clogged up if he can.
That's right. This is really weird. Pierre's just on mono mountains here somehow. We saw islands from him before, right?
Kind of an unfortunate draw for Pierre.
Yeah, 6 of them so far.
Yeah, obviously if he had islands, he'd be able to scry, control his draw. Kind of the opposite of last game where Reid kind of rode that courser to victory. If Pierre had an island, he might be kind of riding scry to victory.
Yeah, his Stormcaller of Keranos can sit there and play 1 and a blue, activate it for scry over and over and over.
And I got a chance to glance at Reid's deck list, and I saw he didn't actually splash the Ashiok.
Okay, so he decided against it.
Yeah. Which I think makes sense because his deck has so much power, he just doesn't need it.
So Reid attacks with Nessie and Asp, threatening Monstrous, and in fact goes for Monstrous after it's unblocked. So that's half of Pierre's life total in one hit.
You know what that tells me?
Huh.
Reid's probably got a Grey Merchant in
Okay.
hand. Because it's very, very unlikely that Pierre's going to deal 11 to Reid this turn. But if Pierre has, a removal, a portent, something like that, he can deal quite a bit this turn. And I doubt Reid wants to put himself in a position where his life total gets that low without the ability to gain it back.
Right.
Now, I could be wrong. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he just has more blockers, and maybe he just wants to turn on this 8-power attacker. But it just feels, when your deck is this good in the late game, why leave yourself, I don't know, this vulnerable?
Sure.
Then again, I forget that guy's name, but the 3-mana 2/2 that scries.
No, the Stormcaller of Keranos, yeah.
Right. If Reid lets this game turn into a stalemate, Pierre will find an island sooner or later, and then he'll have a higher draw step quality than Reid.
That's right.
By scrying every turn. So maybe Reid does want to shorten the game, this game, even though that's not what his deck wants to do in general.
Yeah, I mean, because he takes on some risk here, but now he gets to just start attacking with that Asp, and it must be blocked every turn for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Like, he just gets to start just eating creatures from Pierre Mondon and putting him in a pretty tough spot. Now, of course, Reid has to be a little bit nervous this turn because it would take a combination of spells, though, to really kill him here. He'd need, like from this point, he'd need to have, well, you need to have 2 cards in his hand for starters, which he doesn't.
Well, is this his upkeep or his main phase or something? Where are we?
Yeah. Oh, his end step. All right, so he is going to have 2 cards, and he's going to get a Scry, too. So something like a Lightning Strike plus a Portent of Betrayal could kill Reid here.
Yeah, I mean, you're not worried about dying to a combination like end-of-turn Magma Jet on top Lightning Strike Portal. I mean, it's not in that kind of a position.
Yes.
But
I mean, that's what it's going to take to get Pierre to actually kill Reid this turn. It's a pretty long shot.
The reason I figure Reid probably has a Grey Merchant is because even though it takes something like that to kill him, it doesn't take a lot to get Reid pretty low after this turn. And Reid's not in a position to be able to kill Pierre on the crackback. I mean,
like if Pierre has any type of chump blocker.
Right, which I mean, he has cards in hand. He probably can make a blocker. So, I mean, I feel like Reid's play is very aggressive, so most likely he has a Grey Merchant. But when I rethought about that, if that Stormcaller was just a vanilla Grey Ogre, then I would feel like Reid's play was too aggressive without a Grey Merchant. But since you don't want a long game and you don't want your opponent to start scrying and having a higher draw quality over the long game, I could see Reid making this play without the Grey Merchant.
Okay. Yeah, it also uses up all of his mana for the turn here. If Reid had nothing else to do that turn anyway. All right, so here's comes some attacks from Pierre. He's just going to attack with the Fanatic of Mogus. So Reid's deciding if he wants a chump block or not.
Can we see Reid's hand?
Not
I could stop
quite.
guessing if he would just show us.
He's so close, but I can't see it. He's got 3 cards, though.
Guys, you're on camera.
Help us out. No, they don't do that.
Yeah.
This is
I saw a forest, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Yeah, like what if Reid's on just like 3 lands here?
Yeah, I mean, I like Reid's play because of what we said, because of the Stormcaller. I don't think Reid's looking for the game to go long, even though usually he's going to be. You know what I mean?
Here's a Cyclops of One-Eyed Pass now for Pierre. Reid goes to his draw step, peels his 4th card in hand, and surveys the scene.
Okay, show us. You're like so on the verge.
It's funny. Some players hold their cards very closely, and some
You know what's funny? So before doing commentary, obviously, I never thought about that. Can you? How do I hold mine? Like, can you see them?
You're one of the middle people.
All right.
Yeah. You can usually see him.
He does have a forest. I can pretty clearly see one forest.
There's Pierre's list too for you, Ben.
Cool. He definitely has one forest in his hand. I can see that. He might have more than one. I'm not sure, but I can see one. The one he just played is the forest I could see. That looks like maybe a lash in the back of his hand.
I thought I saw a lash as well. I also we're both leaning over the side of the screen.
It's not easy.
I also thought I saw a tragic slip, so I don't know what he has.
Yeah, that was an interesting chump block. So he chump blocked with the Storm Caller and not the Spear Point Orion.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I personally thought it offered more value. I know he doesn't have any islands right now, but even if he draws one island, if he scries a single time, that seems more valuable than First Strike right now.
Yeah, how many islands does he have in his list?
Only 5.
5, all right. So he's heavy red.
Yeah.
And here's a nice blocker, Sylvan Carry added for Reid Duke.
Reid's got to have something. I mean, that's a card Pierre's happy to see. It's just, basically a chump blocker for either the 4-2 or the 5-2. It doesn't stop anything.
No, and there's another blocker here for Reid Duke.
That's a little better because it gives Reid a possible double block with the 1-3 on the 4-2.
Right.
So Reid doesn't really have much here, it looks like.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he has much, but he has board control right now,
does.
right? I mean, he just gets to keep hitting with this snake, which is lethal.
Yeah.
And putting the onus back on Pierre to do something. And it's a nice position to be in if you're Reid Duke.
Yeah, and that's why Reid made that aggressive play. He's trying to shorten this game.
Yeah.
It was the right play.
Now, this is a little more interesting because Pierre does have the option here to double block and actually kill the snake, right?
Yeah,
5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
I'm kind of surprised that that's the route Pierre wanted to go with this.
You would have been more aggressive?
Well,
because this is risky, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're kind of losing going the aggressive route.
Yeah.
To just on board.
This is like Farika's Cure, or Lash of the Whip away from just getting destroyed here. Now it feels like Pierre just can't ever come back,
No,
right?
he can't. But, I mean, the question is, could he have beaten a Lash going the other way? Because
that is the question.
If you leave up just the one chump blocker, then it just gets lashed and you die. So you kind of have to leave the 4-2 and the 2-2 and attack with just the 5-2, which is fine because the 5-2 is the one that would take out both guys if you double block. But that's probably not a game you're winning anyway.
Right, and that's going to do it. It looks like Pierre Mondon has just extended the hand, and Reid Duke is into the semifinals. BDM, what else is going on down there?
Who wins in a fight, Stormbreath Dragon, Monstrous, or 100-handed one Monstrous?
Well, the 100-handed one can't block the Stormbreath, can it?
Oh, so this wasn't as hard as I thought. Yeah. Mark Cavaldi made pretty short work of Chris Calcano in game 2. He just Stormbreath dragged him, and there was nothing. He couldn't find any answers for it.
Yeah. They're both big, but one of them has protection from the other.
So the only match left going on is, I believe, Mancuso versus Goldstein. They're in game 3, and it looks like Goldstein's Mancuso's gonna run away with that with green-white, but we'll see what happens.
And they're on one of our side tables.
They're on one of the side tables, and they're in game 3.
And
I don't think we're going to be able to go there.
Okay.
So what did Frank Scarron draft?
Frank Scarron.
Who beat Yui?
I actually walked by and I got just a short glimpse of it. I don't know what's in his list. It was like blue, green, black, maybe something like that.
Yeah, but it was like a 3